Okay, I think it's recording now. All right.
Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob,
And I'm Ryan,
and you're listening to
and you're
Frontier.
listening to Frontier.
So we were actually mid conversation, and Ryan was going. We were talking. And I was like, "Hey, shut up! I think we should be recording." And so here we are. We're gonna rewind our past probably like 20 minutes of talking by ourselves and start the episode. So first of all, Ryan, how are you doing in this crazy COVID era?
I'm doing well. I am, we're in 5 days a week still. Um, so we're doing that. Luckily, we're not seeing any spread through the school. Kids are getting it outside of school, but it's not spreading around in. So we've got new cases coming in and out, but the kids are safe when they're at school, which is pretty awesome. But besides that, we're just working on some indoor stuff and getting ready to gear up into some winter season here. How about yourself, Rob?
Yeah. So are you having any teachers coming down with the COVID at your school? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, we get an email every time we have somebody get a positive test, so it's like it really doesn't seem to be selective. Like every day is like either a staff member got it or a ninth grader got it or a 12th grader got it or I mean it just seems to be it's more community spread than it is school spread. So it's good. It means our mitigation factors are doing what they need to be doing, and the contact tracing is doing what it needs to be doing, which is really good. So the kids are. It almost seems like the kids are safer being in school, where they're like, you have to wear a mask and you have to stay as far apart as you can. Like it's not always 6 feet, but you got to stay apart from each other, and like the teachers either teach from their desk or from a stationary position, like at a chalkboard or whatever. So things seem to be going well. It's just we can't obviously stop what people are doing outside in the community.
I think that's really interesting because you would think at this point that it would be COVID that shuts down a school, and it would be because you see it spreading throughout the community too much because of schooling. But I think in reality, what I'm seeing like is as I look at the numbers, I think the Cincinnati Enquirer published something about like schools in Southwest Ohio about the percentage and numbers of kids versus students that have it, and in actuality, like it's the very little, but my school district is huge and we have over 40 cases in the teachers alone. And
Mm.
my school, even though it's been like really stellar, very few COVID cases, the thing that we're seeing is that like if you, because of the sick procedure, say that you have a headache, you got to go home, you got to get COVID tested, and it's got to come back negative before you can go back to school. And so like but that's a headache, that's coughing, anything that says that you're sick. So right now my school is like on the brink of non-functionality because enough people are just ill in general, like not even testing positive for COVID. Enough people are out right now waiting on COVID tests that it may be like a thing where like, oh, we don't have enough people to cover all these students. And
Right.
in our last week before we go full remote for the winter. So that's yeah, I mean it's like maybe it's a good thing we're going full remote if that's going to be the case. It's not like we've got substitute teachers just like lined up or anything. Um so it
I don't think anybody does right now.
yeah, right. Like it's literally the common cold could shut down my school before COVID does. And that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What so we're both in our indoor season here. Well, Ryan has started Matrix pretty hard, I believe. And have you started
Yep.
your high school yet?
So Lebanon has been going.
Oh, don't say that name. No, I'm just kidding. Are you,
I
are we allowed to say the names on here? Do we care? Do they care?
don't know. Cut that out.
I'll edit
we'll,
over it. Okay, yeah.
we'll just cut that out. So one school has started. They've been going for a little while because marching band ended so early this year.
Okay.
My school that I am at, we're doing our first workshop tomorrow. So we've got a workshop tomorrow, Thursday, and then our audition on Tuesday. And then the school that we teach together, I think, starts in December, doesn't it?
Yeah, we definitely get a pretty late start there, which is I don't know. I'm really anxious to
Okay
get
by
going.
me right now.
What's that?
Right now, it's a-okay by me.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, I'm like just like writing etudes and like just fooling around, just waiting for winter to start, honestly. But yeah,
Yeah.
um, well, that's cool. So you're already in the swing of things. So you were talking. We brought up the fact that WGI is going to proceed, and it's going to proceed quite a bit differently than previously. And you were going over the differences with me here. Do you mind starting over so that our audience can listen as well?
Yeah.
Can you share your
Yeah.
screen?
So I think,
You mind?
yeah, yeah, I'll share the screen here in a second. So I think for everybody getting ready for the winter season, there's a couple different things. Like I know local circuits are doing lots of different things. Like I know um, OIPA, which is more like central northern Ohio, is doing a mixture of like virtual shows and live shows towards the end of the season, and hopefully culminating in like a live state championships event. And I know MIPA is doing the same thing. I know some circuits are doing like where the judging is 100% remote, so like the shows will just get sent to the judges and whatnot. Even in live situations, like the live shows are more of like exhibitions for the kids to get in front of like performers and audiences and that kind of stuff and perform live. But the judging is still remote. Like I haven't heard anything. There's been no official announcements, but those are some of the things that I've been hearing from local circuits. Again, I don't know which one or who is doing that kind of stuff, but I do know that WGI is 100% remote this year. So I'm going to share my screen. Robin and I were looking at this beforehand. So if you're on the podcast, you should try to jump over to YouTube.
We'll also do our best
And
job of like describing what we're going through.
yes, yes. Right now we're on looking at the WGI website, and about a quarter of the way down the page or halfway down the page, if you scroll down, there's an option for like click on the 2021 virtual season announcement, you know, and it just starts off by saying, there will be a season and we're doing all these things. And registration actually just opened when we're recording this episode. So some groups might be registered as of today, but the registration deadlines are not until later. And one of the cool things with this is WGI has said there's no wait list. So like in the past, if you didn't register on the first day or whatever, you always ran the risk of being locked out of a show. But now since everything is virtual, there's nothing you can get locked out of. So basically anyone that wants to do anything can do something. So they're offering like two tracks, which is competitive and non-competitive. So the first one we're going to look at is the competitive track. And there's a lot of tabs on all of this stuff. I would recommend you, if you're looking at it, to like read through a lot of these different things because there's a lot of different tabs going on. But we're not going to be able to go through everything. So there's three competitive opportunities for our students. There's solo, which is exactly what it sounds like. They can perform a solo. Um, there is small ensembles, which is anything from 2 members to 9 members. Um, so think like traditional percussion ensemble, like they set up, like what we did in college if you were a percussion major or went to a percussion ensemble concert. So anything like that. And I believe those time limits on solos and small ensembles are 2 to 4 minutes. Again, if you're looking at any of these tabs, you can just click down and it brings over like overview, creative uses, rules, register here, schedule, and the classes that it is offered in. So like if you look, and I haven't looked at this, the solos are offered in like the categories for color guard. It's like flag, rifle, saber, movement, mixed equipment. And for percussion, you can see it's like snare, tenor, mallets, timpani, piano or synth, multi percussion, and the classes are 13 and under, 14 to 18, 19 and up, and it's the same thing for the winds, but it's like by instrument. Um, So I think it offers a lot of opportunities. I like that for like especially like in Ohio we solo an ensemble and our kids perform like one time and then they put that solo away. I
Yeah,
think this is more of a chance for them to perform more. You were gonna say something, Rob?
oh no, yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, because then what? You take it to solo and ensemble, which in Ohio you get like a 1 through 5, and then it's just like it's another opportunity to get more criticism, more feedback, and more experience, which is huge. Hopefully, I think
Yeah, and I
hopefully this
don't.
is something that sticks around, so that
Yeah, well, they had actually started this in the summer. It had started as like live events, and there was one actually in the Dayton area. So I do think this is going to stick around because don't quote me on this, but I believe System Blue kind of started this whole thing. I could be totally wrong on that, but I
okay,
believe System Blue kind of started that. So like, I think if you look at like the rules, obviously it tells you like timelines and whatnot. And I'm just rifling through this real quick, so if you're just listening to us, it's you're not missing too much. So yeah, wind percussion solos may not be less than 120 seconds or more than 240 seconds, which is 2 to 4 minutes. Small ensembles are 2 minutes to 4.5 minutes, and it says cuts should be made to fit within that time. Obviously, since there's and this is competitive and non-competitive groups, there's no space restrictions on your performance to allow for maximum social distancing and whatnot. So you can rehearse outside, and if you're rehearsing outside in an entire parking lot, just use the whole thing. You can perform as for as much space as you want. Um, so yeah, I don't. All the awards are digital, is what it says. I don't know exactly what that means. I would assume that's like the banner picture that groups get for like the regional finalist or the regional champion
yeah, like a
banner
PDF of your
Facebook.
certificate or something.
Yeah, the Facebook banner things. Um, so so we kind of went through the like the small ensemble stuff is like I said 2 to 9 members, so I think that's really good for like small ensembles, especially if this is, and I would imagine this is more standstill stuff, at least on the percussion side. So, like a small concert ensemble, whether it be like WGI competitive concert style or like percussion ensemble style setup. Um, my only thing is that 2 to 4 minutes. That's really short for most percussion ensemble pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that's not a huge range, really. That's
Yeah,
pretty brief.
yeah. So the biggest thing, and I'm sure what most people are looking at or curious about, is the competitive, like the large group, and this is like normal drum line, what you would see in the gym. So I'm going to click on overview here, and this is when WGI does this. Like they changed the rule used to be like 6 members had to be used for 6 members constituted a group. So in
Okay.
order to have a group, you had to have 6 members. The minimum for this year now is 10. Okay, and there was a reason they explained. I don't exactly remember, but I think they made it 10 so that they could have the like solo class, the small groups class, and then the big groups. And I think they changed that to put everyone more on a level playing field because everything is going to be recorded and whatnot. Um, and then new for this year also is like regional A classes exist across the board, and those have been at regionals. They've existed for regionals, but the last time I saw a regional A group at a WGI show was I can't even remember when. Um, but it exists now for like moving groups and concert classes and for concert win or for wins. And the cool thing, and I know we're talking like a front ensemble podcast here, or marching percussion podcast here, but there's concert classes for wins now. So like you can record your concert band and send it in for feedback and that kind of stuff, which I think is really, really cool just in terms of groups having opportunities for like growth and whatnot. Another thing that's new is there's no minimum performance time, and they changed that for groups that like if your group goes through a 2 week quarantine, like, and you have a 4 minute show, but you can only get 2 minutes on. Like just perform what you got. So there's no minimum now because everyone's going to be able to rehearse different times. You know, some groups might only be able to rehearse 1 day a week. Some might be able to rehearse more. So they're doing it more as a, again, everything is kind of leveling the playing field. And then with the cameras, um, you have a video, and this is the biggest difference between the competitive stuff and the non-competitive stuff. For all of the competitive stuff, it's one camera and one take, and that camera has to be stationary, so it can't like pan back and forth or anything. You've got to be like up and back and take in the full scope of the performance. So like if you got kids all the way out on the edge of the floor, you got to get farther back. If you've got, you know, a really wide setup, like my school is a concert class, so if we have a really wide setup, it just means I got to get farther back and farther up probably. So I think it allows, it gives us a like a regulation to where like it's got to fit in this camera. So like as groups are rehearsing, even if you're not doing a recording that day, like I think you got to step back and look through your camera and be like, all right, we fit. Or,
Yeah.
oh crap, we got to rewrite this
Like
because
that,
we don't
yeah,
fit.
like that's a point that you may really have to design your show around the capacity of your camera and your recording area.
I think you will have to. And
Yeah.
again, you can record inside or outside. Um, so it really just depends on like where the best setup is for that. Um, you know, it's got the price on here, and every class is different. We're looking at the large groups, so it's like $125 for each weekend of prelims, and there's four rounds of prelims, and you can sign up for most of them, or you can sign up for all of them if you want to. And I think the really cool thing is that on a normal year to do WGI, it's like $550 or $600 to do just finals, and you've got to sign up for a regional, and you got to do all this and that. And here you can sign up for all 4 weekends of prelims, and it's $500. Now, personally, I wouldn't do that because you're not going to have time to incorporate your feedback. Um, and we'll look at how that schedule is here in a second. But every group will get two evaluators giving educational feedback on the performance, and then there's a progression of prelims into semis into finals. That information has not come out yet, but it should be coming out shortly. And then below that, again, we're on the overview page. It's just got time limits and whatnot. So the only other thing to take a look at with that is kind of the schedule. I think is cool. It lets groups register later. So like I was talking about earlier, when you're registering for WGI, you got to register pretty early. Like right now, normally this would be pretty late in registration for WGI, and this year it just started today. Actually, we're recording this on November 16th. Um, but you can see if you want to do prelims round one, your paperwork and registration don't have to be in until February 8th. Now, there's a bunch of stuff you got to do, so I won't wait till February 7th to start that paperwork because you got to get like, I'm sure you still got to get your school list, and like the school's got to approve every kid that's like, yes, they are a student at this school and whatnot and that kind of stuff. But your paperwork for like copyright and that kind of stuff, it's probably got to be in that day. You know, and then you can see right next to it, you've got 2 days to upload your video, and then you got 2 days to get the evaluation back from your judge, and then everything is hosted on Flow Marching this year. So Flow Marching will host that round of prelims on, in this case, February 27th and 28th, and it's just as far as I understand, it's just a continuous stream. So you can watch yourself at any point through that weekend. I don't know if it like the whole show runs and then runs again and then runs again, or if you can click on and go by class. Um, I don't even know if anybody knows that yet based on how many groups are registered and whatnot. But that's how all the events, like the solo events, are streaming through Flow Marching, um, the small ensemble events, and they're all on different schedules. So like the schedule that you're seeing right now, if you're with us, is the big group competitive schedule. Um, and you can see it's like for this, there's week one of prelims, and week two is the next weekend, and then you've got a weekend off, and then you've got 3 and 4 back to back. So that's why when I was saying like, hey, I wouldn't register for all 4 weekends, you can, but your feedback from week one, you're not necessarily going to get in for week two, and vice versa. And then your feedback for 3, you're not necessarily going to get in for 4.
Right. Yeah.
So like
That's
my plan with my schools, we're gonna, I think, knock on wood, we're gonna go week 1 and week 3.
okay.
You know,
Which then brings you right up to semis.
right? Yeah, and that gives us basically an every other week type deal,
Yeah.
um, which is pretty awesome. And then you've got 2 rounds of semis, and then your round of finals airs on when WGI finals would normally air.
So I notice on the right side of your screen you have an Artipop baby carrier Zeitgeist Fusion. Um, is there any reason that they're targeting you, Ryan? Is there something you need to tell the world? Do you have
Uh,
do you have some good
no,
news on the way or something?
absolutely not. I have no idea what that's for.
Yeah, what a weird article to find on the WGI website. Anyway, I'm sorry. No, that makes total
Now
sense
you
to
got me
go.
looking at the ads.
Yeah, who's targeting you right now and why? Yeah, no, no,
So
that makes perfect sense, and I can see somebody trying to do like maybe week 2 and then treating week 4 as like a prelims practice or something like that. Um,
absolutely.
and at that point,
And
it's hit it.
no, and at $125 for each show,
Yeah,
that's really not bad to do 2 of them. That's that's half of what it would cost you to just register for Worlds.
no excuses. Like everybody should be competing, right? So
Well, I don't know if everyone should be competing, but everyone should be participating.
that okay, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and I think if your goal is to go out and be competitive, I think there's lots of opportunities in this in order to do that and to be successful and to get feedback. I mean, the biggest thing is you get feedback from 2 WGI judges from the comfort of your own gym or own band room if you're a concert group or your own parking lot. Like even though local circuits are going to offer live shows potentially, um, like my personal take on it is I don't know that I don't feel comfortable putting kids on a bus right now. So why do that?
Yeah.
When everybody and when everything can be just recorded, and then we can relax, we can take our time setting everything up and do all that kind of stuff. So, um, that's the competitive side of things. Did you have any thoughts or
Yeah, I have a
questions?
million. I have a million thoughts about this, about like things that can give you the best opportunity as you're turning in a tape, the ways that you need to, because we're dealing with like the totally different variable of COVID and shutdowns and quarantines. Like you said, maybe you only get 2 minutes on the show or 2 minutes on or something, or maybe you only get a minute in because you just had rampant COVID in your school, whatever. How can you best rehearse to make the most out of that time? Should you just plan on a short show? Should it be like, like quality versus quantity of minutes? How can you work that out? How should you be filming? Should you get a shotgun microphone? Should you be filming from a nice HD, like high quality camera? What type of microphone is
So
best for going in the gym? Like I've got a million questions.
I wanna talk about the audio thing
Yeah.
after we wrap up talking about the non-competitive thing because I that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Um, I think in terms of like rehearsing, that's a really good question. Like, I think you've got to plan for I think you've got to plan for everything. Like I think you've got to plan for the ability to have a quote unquote normal season and a 4 minute show or 4.5 minute show, and you've got to plan for having, 2 weeks off at times because kids have to quarantine, or missing your ensemble for 2 weeks and that kind of stuff, or having your school shut down for a month, like going back into a statewide lockdown, like we're seeing in a couple states for like 3 or 4 weeks, where it's like, all right, we planned for a 4 minute show and now we got to make it a 2.5 minute show. And I think the smart thing, like as I'm designing for a couple groups, it's like put a couple impact points where it's like if the show ended here, it would be fine. We'd want to change the story that we're trying to communicate, if we're even trying to communicate a story, but like it gives us multiple points to be like, all right, this is the end. All right, this is the end. Or hey, we got the whole thing on and nobody doesn't know it, and we're there. So I think you've got to plan for. I think you got to plan for every situation, which feels counterintuitive, but I think that's the best way to like hope for the best, but kind of expect the worst or be prepared for the worst
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know that there's a right answer or a wrong answer.
I mean, we're gonna see, right? Like these are unprecedented times for everybody. Like just how our for everything from how the government is running to like our school systems to, every individual basis. We're not only just guessing at what is actual factual information here or like what is true about how things are spread. We're doing things for the first time. And in a way, it's kind of sweet. Like there are people who react to this in a certain manner that are just very defeated, and then there are people who find this to be an opportunity, like, and find a way to work around it. And I think that's really cool. Um, I wish that we had more highlights of the success stories right now going on in social media and the news or whatever. So talking about the sound stuff, and we can cover it a little bit here, but how do you feel about, and I'm throwing this at Ryan. We have not talked about this, but like how do you feel about interviewing a certain somebody about the best way, like maybe we could do an episode on the best way to record your group for WGI, setting yourself up for success.
I feel like that's a really
I just
smart thing to
I
do.
just sent a text to somebody and he's down to do an episode. So that would be, gonna say another
Cool.
episode, but yeah.
Cool. That would be awesome. Yeah, and I'll touch on that a little bit here
Yeah.
after we talk about this. So the next thing that you see, and I brought it up on my home screen for those of you watching us, is WGI's also launched a bunch of non-competitive opportunities. And some of these I'm familiar with. Like I'm familiar with what the e-showcase is. The easiest one to talk about is the community project. So if you listen to our episode with Andy Filipiak, he was involved with the Virtual Drum and Bugle Corps. So this community project that WGI is doing is the same kind of thing. It's powered by Virtual Arts, which is the overarching program that is the Virtual Drum and Bugle Corps and the virtual marching band that's going on. Um, and basically, they're bringing out uh, the project community Winter Drumline, Winter Guard, and Winter Winds. Let's see. Oh, this is going to take me to their website, probably. Um, so there's a Santa mask for you, Rob. we're just crushing it on these ads.
Believe, yeah.
So there's not a ton of information on WGI's website. There have been a couple of announcements on like Facebook and whatnot of they're bringing out a guard percussion group and a winds group, um, basically probably in the same style as the virtual drum and bugle corps was, with effects artists and audio engineers, and putting that kind of thing. And it says, we anticipate the WGI community project to be the largest ensemble in WGI history, which it probably should be if it's like a virtual thing. So that's really cool, I think, for groups that are for schools that don't have indoor drum lines, but they have students that are looking to do this kind of stuff. Um, I will also, and this will be a little bit of a shameless plug. Matrix just announced their virtual initiative for a winter drumline and winter winds group that is run by the Matrix staff. So like the virtual drumline is myself and Rob Ferguson doing it, and the winds group is Rob and Will Pitt doing it. And there's a bunch of different there's the information that I know that I can share, and it's up on Matrix's website, is that it's like an 18-week educational module. So every week, students will get like an educational video for their instrument based on technique or whatever, or breaking down show stuff that will culminate in eventually a virtual choir type performance as well, where they get to perform a like 3-minute show of that's very branded like Matrix is, and they've got 18 weeks of the educational thing, and we're putting together a video of it, and it's a lot of just another outlet for kids to perform in.
Yeah, that's great. That's a lot.
So,
There's like this running meme amongst the music educator Facebook world, and it says friends don't let friends do virtual concerts. And if you've ever put one together, there's a reason you don't let a friend do that. It's it's heinous as to the amount of work required to do that. But
oh,
that's super cool. I love that. That's like a purely educational opportunity, and like man, what a great thing. If you're like somebody that's really interested in marching, you go out, you audition, and you get cut, or you haven't even auditioned yet. Like, what a great way to get yourself introduced to the
right.
world. There, like, I know when YouTube was like just beginning, when I was starting out as a marching percussionist, and for me it was just like mystery. It felt like, man, how do I learn to get better, man? And in reality, like now there's just so much information, like everything from like Bill Bachman to
Hmm.
Ian Grom is just constantly spewing out just tons of smarts and info on Facebook. Like there's no reason you can't
Right.
be learning constantly.
Right. And well, that's our goal with the virtual initiative for Matrix, is that it's not it's meant to be like entertaining, with the video at the end, but that's really the culmination of like 18 weeks of education. Where again, like I'll put together 18 videos for anyone that does the front ensemble of like, here's how Matrix's approach to technique goes. So like if you're a high school kid and you're like, I want to march there, or I want to learn from like world class instructors, like there's that opportunity for you. And one of the things that we're doing is every year, again, assuming knock on wood that the world is kind of normal come March or April, uh, we do a friends and family show that people that do the virtual thing can also then add on and do like a live show, like do the show live at our friends and family. Like come in for 2 Saturdays or whatever, learn the show live, march drill, and whatever. And our expectation with that, again, with if we're able to do that stuff in March or April, is if we get 16 snare drums and like 3 quad players that are like, I'm coming in to do the live thing, and like 2 marimbas and 7 vibraphones, we're doing it. Like they want the full Matrix experience in a very tight timeline, so we're gonna give it to them. So I think there's gonna be a lot of cool things, and again, not a ton of information is out about the community project, but I would imagine that they're similar ish in nature. So again, there's just so many opportunities for kids to get information that way and to participate that way, which I think is really cool.
Completely agree.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, so moving into the non-competitive thing, WGI lists on their thing they have two. They have group non-competitive, which I'm actually going to click on because I'm not sure what the difference between group non-competitive and e-showcase is. So I just want to take a look at this overview. We'll learn together here. Um, okay, so it's the same thing as competitive, but there's no scores, no rating or ranking. Um, However, they're gonna do so like it's group non-competitive. It's the same thing. I know I just got in and out of it real quick, but it's the same kind of thing where more it's got to be more than 10 people. You know, you can film it however you well. It's one camera, one shot, filmed wherever you want to. Send in for feedback and not for evaluation or not for sorry adjudication, but still everything is on flow marching. And then the last thing, and I think this might be the coolest one, and I know a couple groups are probably going to take advantage of this, is like is called their e showcase. So this is no rules. You want the Wild West of virtual performing that's not like a virtual choir, e-showcase is where you want to go because there's no limits on the number of performers you can have. Your maximum performance time is 8 minutes, but the file, including an intro and an outro, can be 10. Um, you can edit your video projects. So, like, you want to put GoPros on every kid and film from upstairs and pan it? Go ahead. There's no rules. Um, you want to, and I've heard rumors of these things happening. You want to do disco lights and smoke machines and basically everything you can never normally do in performance settings. You can do those. So I've heard of groups trying to put together like music video type deals
Yeah.
for this e-showcase stuff. I think is gonna be just really really cool, and you still get feedback. You only get feedback from one educator versus two or evaluator, but it's still geared towards educational feedback. But when it's streamed on Flow Marching, people are literally watching like YouTube music videos. Like they're basically you turn on Flow Marching and it's like letting YouTube run for that weekend or whatever, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. That allows for
So
a
I
lot
think
of
I've heard
opportunity.
of a lot of groups trying to do. What's that?
I think that's really sweet. Like you can really do it up, and it's not even necessarily a performance for the judges so much as it is a performance for the kids to take and be able to show people
Well,
like, look at this production, look at what I was a part of.
that's what I'm saying. Like for this, even if you don't do the e showcase like through WGI because it's $75 for a weekend, and again, it airs on it's on a different timeline, but it airs on Flow Marching. So like if you click on the schedule, it'll bring it up like oh, it's actually the same weekends as like the 4 rounds of prelims. So what I would imagine they'll do is they'll do like a class, a competitive class, and then some e-showcase, and then a competitive class and some e-showcase, and a competitive class and some e-showcase. If they run them like that, unless they're just like one channel's all competitive and one channel's e-showcase. But like, what a cool recruiting tool! Like, you can put GoPros on all your kids, have them run around the floor, mess with the lights, and then put together a recruiting video that you can send to your middle school kids, and they probably freak the heck out about it and be like, "That's so cool! I want to do that."
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
That's super sweet. I mean, honestly, like, why have we waited until now to come out with something like that for recruiting? Like, you know, like
Well,
that's
yeah.
brilliant.
Because this is one of those things of like, we could have been doing this all along, but it took something like COVID to show us that, like, hey, you can do this, guys.
Yeah.
It's all right, you know. Because
Yeah.
I think it's been really smart. I think that's one of the things that we've looked at, that I've looked at during this whole COVID thing of like, all right, how do we build long term sustainability? And it's like cool stuff, cool stuff. Like get kids hooked on cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got to teach them how to get to that cool stuff. But yeah, so I mean that is that's their creative class essentially is the e-showcase. And then if you scroll down, and it doesn't matter what channel, what one you click on, but WGI gives you like some creative uses that you can do, and I'll just click on this one. It gives you ideas for create like very generic ideas for like creative uses of like no standard rules, get creative, use edited videos to showcase your performers, no indoor facility needed. Could be done 100% virtually. So you could put together, your school could put together a virtual choir for this thing. If you were like, we're shut down, we'll never see each other, here's some show music, record it on your own, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, like you can have a number of performers, celebrate a non traditional season with all ages. So that's really cool. Bring back alumni, you know, bring in guest artists, that kind of thing. Um, this is a cool one. Recreate your favorite show from WGI history. So find your favorite find your favorite world independent world show and like we're gonna try and be like those guys. Do that. I mean, you know, explore lightings, drones, or new staging spaces. That's a cool one too. I didn't think
Yeah.
about the drones thing until now.
Yeah, seriously. That's like obviously for like Ohio groups or East Coast people, you're like a little bit limited in the winter years or winter season, but for California groups, you could literally perform or do this or record anywhere. Um, Nighttime,
Right.
like whenever, which is outside.
Yeah. I mean, at night, like bring out your strobe lights and your spotlights and whatnot and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I heard of people that are like, well, we can't rehearse in the gym. We can only be on stage. So instead of doing a big group, we're going to do a couple small groups. You know, I think it gives people a lot of opportunities that they wouldn't normally be able to explore.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to open up a lot of cool things that will hopefully influence the future of the activity. You know, either in terms of design or performance outlets or any of those kinds of things. So the thing I wanted to talk about with the recording, and obviously we'll probably talk about this with like a specialist on another episode. It sounds like, but so your audio does not need to come from the video, so you can pipe your audio in however you want to.
Yeah, you can mic whatever, right?
Right. So like my school is a concert group. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mic everything, including racks. So we'll probably go like a low mic if there's drums on the racks and the overhead for cymbals and that kind of stuff. We'll mic all the keyboards. Obviously, the synths already run into the mixer, but then we'll plug the mixer straight into my laptop and record straight to Logic on every instrument being a different channel,
Yeah.
you know, which will allow us to then, you know, mix that kind of stuff to give the quality performance outside of like, guys, you didn't play together. But, you know, it'll still be the same quality you would expect kind of sitting in a gym instead of like I recorded it on my iPhone 8. Hopefully the sound audio is pretty good too, guys. Cuz it's not going to be.
It'll be questionable for sure. I mean, like to be real, iPhone microphones are like they're not terrible. They're really
Mm-mm.
like if you compare the iPhone microphone versus the MacBook Pro mic, you got iPhone all day long, and usually it's pretty similar with the cameras as well. But for something like this, like you just marimbas don't record well with most microphones, like most setups anyway. So probably going to be worth going through that extra hassle not to deal with the iPhone.
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, like you were talking about with shotgun mics, like recording the battery, just to make sure that again you can mix electronics and acoustics and all of that. And I know there are going to be some people that uh, don't want to do that or can't do that or don't know how to figure it out. And I really do think I think when you first hear like, hey, you can plug your mixer straight into your laptop and record into a DAW and do all these things, I think that's intimidating for some people. But I really think it's just a matter of, do I have the right cables to do it, and did I put the microphones on everything? Obviously, there's going to be a difference in like quality of microphone and that kind of stuff. But I think in order for group, like I don't think groups need to feel like, well, we don't have this or that. Like how can we be competitive? I don't think the audio thing is the determining factor because there's a million different ways to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I
I'm
do
sure we can
foresee.
talk with your buddy about like microphone recommendations and how to do all that stuff and whatnot. So
Yeah, well, we'll
I'm
see.
looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, me too. I feel like this opens up a whole new realm for anybody competitive. It like, as to where because it's virtual, almost anybody can compete. But at the same time, in order to send in a good recording, you have to have the right amount of equipment, or pay to have the right recording happen. I think that's really interesting. How that can kind of it allows a lot more of an opportunity, but at the same time, in order to really compete, you have to still have funds and you have to still have equipment in order to put in something that's going to be watchable, listenable.
Right. Well, I mean, if you have if you have a digital mixer that you can plug straight into a laptop that has a DAW,
Yeah,
you know, like your things are a digital mixer and enough microphones for everything. Those are your two limiting factors. And I think especially this year, like reach out to schools, like form a partnership with schools that are like, hey, we have 12 phones, but we need 20. Do you guys have 8 that we can borrow, and we can let you borrow our 8 or our 12 microphones or whatever. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of teamwork that can be happening to help with this. Like I'm going into another school, tell them to record. Like I'll probably go in, I'll set up the mics and that kind of stuff, and then record their concert bands and their concert group, and those kinds of things. I think there are ways to do it without having to be like, well, we got to go spend tens and thousands of dollars on a brand new audio setup. It's like, no, you need a digital mixer that you probably have enough channels on anyways, because like if you're already maxed out, you probably should have bought a new mixer in terms of channels, like be growing into it. Um, so like hopefully you have a mixer that you're trying to grow into. So you got a channel or two that you can dictate to like a couple of microphones that can be aimed at the floor, um, and that kind of stuff. And the nice thing is you can record multiple different times. You can record multiple times and see like what gives me the best audio and that kind of stuff. And I think that's another thing that plays into people's rehearsal schedule. Like you can't just wait to record till the week before the performance. You've got to record like a month or two in advance to just get your bearings, like to set up everything that you're going to need to be like, all right, so what does this sound like when I'm going to hear it on flow marching? What is this going to sound like? Put your headphones on and listen to it. Cool. Take your notes, do that kind of thing, maybe move a microphone, add a microphone, subtract a microphone, do that kind of thing. I think that is going to be the difference between groups, though. Because obviously, in terms of the competitive group, you got one camera. Like you get one camera, you get one camera angle, up and back. Okay, so I think there is less. Like you don't have to have $1,000 camera.
Yeah.
My iPhone camera works. You know that kind of stuff. So I think it's as easy. I think this is as close to a level playing field as it can be
Yeah. Okay.
for
Yeah, that's
groups.
fair. I agree with that. Yeah, there's an
So
opportunity in there for everybody, really.
I agree. I agree.
Cool. Well, hey, man, I think that's about all we have for this episode, isn't it? Do you have anything else to add on to this?
No, participate. Like get your groups out there and participate.
Yeah, honestly, to the individuals out there, if we have any students that are considering like, should I march this year? The answer is you should at least go audition. To the band directors, like, give your kids a reason to really enjoy this. Like, give them something to look forward to. I know it was kind of a weird fall season to not have any competitions, and you could tell that only drove student for my experience, it only drove students to a certain point. Um, some kids dealt with that really well. Some kids kind of got burnt out at the end without having anything to like change up the season. Participate really on a student group,
Yeah.
teacher, educator level. Everybody should be out there participating. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
and
thanks all.
if you don't have a group, there's ways. There's the community project, there's the matrix I was talking about. Like there's ways to do it. You don't have an excuse not to. Like it's not I got to drive 3 hours to the nearest, independent group. No, in the video. Do like the do the community group, do the matrix initiative. Like you can do this. Like you can drum during the winter and learn and get better
Yeah, like
and
even
have fun.
even Jersey Surf has a like video audition capacity. Like there's no reason you can't go out there and get video.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it.
Cool. Well, hey guys, I think that's it for this time. Glad you could join us, and we'll catch you next time.